Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well. It has been ages, hasn't it? I just kind of realized recently, given some drama that was playing out, that veteran influencers and veteran YouTubers are a thing. I knew they must have been a thing, it just never occurred to me. And then I realized even slower that I am a veteran influencer, right? And I'm a pretty big deal. I have like over 100 subscribers. So the drama playing out, which it has kind of played out. Perhaps it's run its course, and I'm late to the party. Story of my life, but it involves stolen valor accusations of Tim Kennedy, who by any account is a super impressive dude. I watched his MMA career, fighting at the highest levels of the middleweight division. Um, he was also a Green Beret, but he wrote a book that is just accused by the guys on the Anti-Hero podcast, which I never knew existed, but now like I follow them. I also follow Valhalla VFT. Like I didn't know these things were and I follow this guy Green Beret Chronicles. Uh I wasn't a Green Beret, but the military retrained me in civil affairs, which I think is under Special Forces Command, and it's practically the same thing. That's a joke. It's a very very silly joke. I have no such delusions of grandeur, or if I do, my delusions of grandeur are of a completely different flavor. But anyway, Tim Kennedy's delusions seem to be on the table. And these guys, the Anti-Hero podcast, broke it with this 3 hour podcast, which I watched. And as a three-time veteran, as a former infantryman, former civil affairs guy, like yeah, his stories that these guys read in his book, they're just so bizarre that anybody would write this kind of stuff and present it as fiction, or present it as nonfiction. That would be the problem. Like if he wrote it that this was fiction, or at least said it was dramatized, then Tim Kennedy would be remembered as a super impressive human being who also writes kind of borderline cheesy Hollywood style war fiction. But he claimed all of these things were true, and the preponderance. I'm not presenting this in a neutral way because I have an opinion, and I am convinced, and drawing on my experience with the three combat deployments, that yeah, the book is just nonsense. So I applaud these guys, the Anti-Hero podcast and Valhalla VFT and all the other folks commenting on this because I feel uh, like we need that. Like they're like the immune system for a society. The guys that like something in them, like they just can't accept these falsehoods. They can't accept this false credit that that this one veteran influencer, and perhaps other veteran influencers, though they're not on the table, but at least not in a major way, but like they're like the immune system of a society, and a healthy society has that immune system. It has the people who are going to call out BS and call out nonsense and call out stolen valor and false credit. And a healthy society also has the narcissists and the psychopaths. And, the subject here, Tim Kennedy, is probably on the scale. Heck, Valhalla VFT mentioned that most Green Berets are a little bit on that scale, so there's some benefits to having some narcissistic or psychopathic traits, just a few. It gets too much very quickly if you have too much, but a society needs these people who have this almost delusional belief in themselves, because every once in a while those people bring some wonderful innovation to the world. Steve Jobs had a lot of big personality flaws. Probably 90% of them, I think we have like a success bias. We know about Steve Jobs and because we know his success, but probably for every Steve Jobs, for everyone that makes it, there's 10 others who've just, ruined a lot of people's lives and fortunes with their delusions of grandeur. So like a healthy society needs the balance. You need those like guys shooting for the moon, just like believe in their vision or in themselves, like no matter what the reality is, and you need the healthy immune system. So like I kind of see like people are saying, "Oh, this is so much scandal. It's sorry we have this scandal," but I disagree. I think this is the sign of like of a healthy society. Like this tension is normal. Um, what else did I want? Oh, I wanted to say two things. Like one of the guests. So I've been binge watching these veteran influencers, and one of the guests, I think it was a Marine infantry officer, and I forget. And I think it was on Anti-Hero podcast. Like he expressed his gratitude to them, and he said like, oh, he was commenting about the violence of Jocko Wilkins's SEAL team and the story of that top sniper, and I think the Kyle something or other. Gosh, it's embarrassing that I don't remember the name. My apologies. I wish I did. Anyway, this Marine officer, like, he wasn't passing like ultimate judgment on them, but he says like it's a little bit not right, and like I just thought that these were things that I'm gonna live with, and that like these lies won't get looked at and won't get turned over. And he was expressing gratitude that this became an issue. It became a scandal, but I don't like. I'm not. I think the guys that are saying the scandals are bad are wrong. Like a healthy society needs scandals. It's like a wildfire in a forest. It cleans away the brush. It cleans away the scandals, clean away the things that shouldn't be there, and then you have a healthy ecosystem. So, so I kind of listen to that Marine officer. Gosh, I should have prepared and had all the names down. I apologize. But he made me think about a number of things from my deployment that, like, for my deployments, I had 3 of them, that kind of just, like, bother me a little bit, and, like, I wish were talked about. And I'll name them. And maybe I will. Like, maybe I'll write that book that I've dreamed of writing. Gosh, it's so hard to believe that it's been over 20 years since my first deployment. Over 15 since my last. Uh, Hard to believe so much time has gone by, but like things bothered me a lot, like the way the history has been told, and maybe I'll get to writing about them someday. But one is like why like everyone knows, like one of the big events of the Iraq War is the Battle of Fallujah, that the Marines spearheaded. I think it was the first and second one. And I think the first one was in like 2005 in the summer, but or in the late spring. But in February 2005, I was in Fallujah, and my battalion went to help our sister battalion of the 82nd Airborne Division, and 2 battalions. We had freedom of movement throughout Fallujah. In fact, like the thing, and this is why sometimes I respect infantry more than these like super highly trained guys who by all accounts are more elite. I'll never deny that, but like what the infantry has to do, especially in like the GWOT, or Global War on Terror, GWOT, what the infantry has to do is like you just have to walk around till someone shoots at you, and that's how you know the enemy is. But anyway, we took pains in Fallujah to go to the most dangerous area so that people would shoot at us, so that we would know who the enemy is. And like we had complete freedom of movement. We sought out the worst neighborhoods. We did have a few pot shots taken at us with RPGs. There were some minor injuries, but it wasn't that bad. And I think there were a lot of, and like so that's the question open, like in my mind, because we put so much sweat and tears and a little bit of blood into Fallujah. and then the big Battle of Fallujah had to be won back, but I feel like the 82nd never lost it. Now, I do kind of know some of the reasons why it did go bad, and some of them were outside of the control of the unit that took over. But I also have the feeling that the unit that took over, like they went in there like gangbusters and really turned the. Yeah, I know for a fact because we saw it during the left seat, right seat ride. So anyway, I feel like the contribution of my battalion and our sister battalion is kind of lost to history because because we gave Iraq a really gentle touch way back in 0405. Like it was appropriate. Like it's really hard to get soldiers to behave like police, which is basically what we had to do. I think we did it as well as it could have been done. One of my unenviable jobs was whenever there was an incident of a civilian either killed in a firefight or a civilian would open fire in at nighttime, not just at someone in the bushes, and then the soldiers would shoot back and kill the civilian. I had the very unenviable job of like having to meet with the deceased's families and try to make things right to the best of our ability to do so, or not right because you can't fix that, but like just try to like show respect and pay for funeral expenses, sometimes like buy them a goat. Apparently I was advised by like some of the elders that that was a good gesture. So I don't know, like looking back on it all, I'm really proud of how the 82nd did it in 2004. I know from just trading war stories that a lot of other units were pretty bad. Oh, I mean, they did what they were trained to do, which is not be a police force. They did. But anyway, so that's like one thing. The whole story of Fallujah and the way the hard work of the 82nd is kind of lost. And what so the heavy hand was one of the reasons that the Fallujah went to crap after we left. But there were reasons that were completely outside of the control of the forces that took over, and one of them was them shutting down Sheikh Sadr's newspaper. Sadr was an influential political figure, and they shut down his newspaper. Another thing was the whole scandal surrounding the Navy SEALs that were killed and strung up on a bridge. That created huge scandals. Although it surprised me that it did create a scandal because those types of incidents were very common. And, the guys in my battalion were always recovering either civilians or government people or contractors or foreign militaries that got themselves killed or mutilated. So like when that happened to the SEALs, I think it was SEALs, right? Or was it some contractors? It was SEALs when they got all strung up on a bridge, like killed and mutilated. It kind of surprised us that was a huge scandal because that's what was going on in 04. And there's some like the incidents that I just glossed over. They're burned into a lot of people's memories from my battalion. One was a bunch of Spanish intelligence officers, contractors who were guarding a power plant, a bunch of missionaries who just drove around to hand out Bibles. Those were all the different incidents that looked to us a lot like the Navy SEALs getting hung up on that bridge. All right, so that's one of the things that kind of bothered me. Gosh, there were like two others. Oh, one was in Afghanistan in my last deployment, 07. Like I was really good at civil affairs. In fact, I was doing the civil affairs job before the military retrained me in civil affairs. That's another story altogether. I felt like I did more civil affairs and did it better as an infantry officer, and then I got no support, and then the Army yanked me back from the inactive reserve and then trained me to do civil affairs. And it was the people whose job I was doing for them. It was like State Department, all the green zone people training me how to do their job, which I had already been doing for them, getting shot at while I was doing it. Gosh, I didn't mean to rant, but like this anyway. Tuning into the whole like veteran influencer thing has really triggered a lot of memories. So I'm gonna rant a bit. But okay, so my third tour, I got pulled off the inactive reserve. So I thought I was done. I thought I was a civilian. Army yanks me back. I'm one of like apparently 25% people who show up. I want that to be looked at and discussed. Was it really as it seemed to be? And there was just one little article about this in the news. I think they hushed it up. But there was an article about how few people were showing up who were getting pulled off the IRR in '07 when there was a big personnel crisis. The economic crisis of '08 kind of took care of the personnel crisis, but in '07 they were pulling people off the IRR, and it was a huge scandal because they were all veterans like myself who already had one or two or even more deployments. But also, when they were in processing us, they had drill sergeants doing it for some reason. But the drill sergeant, I got really curious. I'm like, I need to capture this moment. Like, I asked to look at like the roster of names that he was like calling attendance, and it was about 25% of people showed up. So I was among that 25. I don't know if I'm a hero or a sucker. But anyway, so like I would love Fallujah to be talked about, and the 82nd in Fallujah. I would love the fact that nobody showed up for the IRR except for me and a few other people to be talked about. And then when I was back in country again, this time formally as a civil affairs dude, it was an incident with a freaking body, man. um, so like I'm really good at that diplomatic stuff, and like the locals all knew me and wanted to talk to me. And when some local came to the gate, he asked to speak to Captain Roman, because everyone knows Captain Roman. And he started talking to me about a body. And I'm like, dude, like, do whatever the heck you usually do with bodies. Like, why is this my business? Like, go to the local priest. Like, I don't know how you handle your dead. And then through the translator, after a lot of discussion, it was like, no, dude. He like told me because I wasn't getting it. He said like, no, it's one of your guys who was like washing down the river body, and like I picked him up and holy smokes, and I was just the point of contact for that, and like soon as I raised it to higher, like no one ever told me not to talk about it again. It just disappeared out of my plate, out of my pay grade, out of my security clearance, whatever. Like it's just gone. I do know a few more details about that, but not many. And like, holy smokes, I would love to know the rest of that story. So there are more for my deployments, like more stories that I would like to know, but like those are three big ones that stand out. Like what happened to all the incredible work that we did in Fallujah? Why did Fallujah need to be won back? If we never, because we never lost it. Like it felt like we did something wrong. Yeah, even though I know we didn't, and I know it was like a shitty situation when military gets asked to act like a huge police force, which is what we did. I'm really proud that we did it. I think we did it about as best as could be done. I'm proud of the guys I was with. Um, yeah, and like it just feels like. Anyway, that's one thing. Second thing is the IRR, like, like like what happened? Like what happened? Like it's 15, 20 years now. We can talk about it, right? Was I among just 25% of people who showed up? And the third thing is that body. So like three mysteries that bother me just a little bit, though they don't bother me a lot, just a little bit. All right, Stolen Valor. Hey, I wanted to say a few words about Stolen Valor because Valor is a real thing. Like if you look at some of these veteran influencers who I've never been part of that community, kind of because I want my memories to be intact. Um, and like when I watch like movies about the global war on terror or read books or like listen to some of these, let's call them tier one influencers like the blue checkmark mafia, and I just hear them breathing into the microphone and saying, "I've seen shit you wouldn't believe." Like I just hate that. I just hate that culture because like it's just so status driven, and like yeah, like seeing things other people wouldn't believe. Like maybe yeah, like that's a part of it, but I don't know. Like in some levels, like I know how hard people try to achieve the status of seeing things that others wouldn't believe. Like it's not like it's not no, it is a minus. Like it does haunt people, it ruins people's lives, drives them to alcoholism. But like at the same time, oh, I'll go back to something I said earlier. At the same time, seeing something you wouldn't believe. So like those missionaries, or no, this was the Spanish intelligence officers that all got killed in our area. Uh, like the locals mutilated them. Like they crushed their heads like with big rocks. It must have been, and we were organizing the cleanup and recovery, and then later, like from what I understand, our battalion and S2 shop did an incredible job running intel and catching the guys who did this. Like months later, like really phenomenal work. That's lost to history, unfortunately. But anyway, like okay, so you have this like huge horrific scene of these allies that were like killed and mutilated, and it was a cleanup mission, which was a standard thing that we would do. We did a lot of them. Um, and this was 2004. We thought we were it. Like we thought the war was going to end at 2004, and like we would be like part of the, whatever 1% of the military that actually got to deploy. It's so different than how things were later. Like so, of the 1% of people that serve in the military, we were actually the 1% that went to war. That's how the world looked in '04. But anyway, I'm kind of rambling. Uh, Okay, so like it was freaking tourism, man. Everybody was trying to get onto that cleanup mission because it was a bad one. So it was like just the opposite of like a lot of these, tier 1 podcasters do. I've seen shit that you wouldn't understand. Like no, it's just the fucking opposite. Like everybody is trying to see shit that other people wouldn't understand. And maybe it does haunt them later and mess them up, so it's not just a positive, but like I forgot what I was gonna say. Did I make a point? I hope I made a point. Uh, okay, yeah. So valor is very valuable because if you see shit other people wouldn't understand, like you have that thing, you have that valor thing, and you can monetize that, and you can become a rich and famous like podcaster. And that's real, and it's not, and it'll pay for your family. It'll help raise your family. So I'm not even saying this is a bad thing. We just need like a healthy we need a healthy immune system. Society needs a healthy immune system to keep it in check and put it in its place and deal with the complexity. And I want to end this video with an ancient story. This is from ancient Rome, a story about stolen valor. This is gonna blow your mind. Yeah. All right. So let me. I'm learning how to after 10 years of making YouTube videos, very few YouTube videos. I'm starting to learn how to do it. So did it? Okay. Hopefully that transitioned and you can now see my screen. So there's a torture called scaphism, not saphism, which I fully support, but scaphism with a C. And it is a torture documented by the ancient Greek Roman philosopher Plutarch. He claims to have witnessed it. And it's a torture in which they tie you up in two boats. So they have two little boats like clamshells, and they cut out and they fit them together like clamshells with your head, arms, and feet sticking out. And they cover you in like honey and milk and feed you honey and milk till you like vomit and have diarrhea, and bugs come and slowly eat you, and they force you to keep consuming nutrition so that you stay alive, and your skin blisters in the sun. And this was done in Persia, where there's you need a where the sun is a thing. And Plutarch, this blows my mind. This is stolen valor, like from over 2,000 years ago. So it was a soldier called Mithridates, and he killed like the leader. He killed an enemy leader who was a sibling of his king. So he killed his king's sibling. I guess that's how things were. It was a civil war, probably a secession war. And the heroic soldier Mithridates kills the king's brother, but the king Artaxerxes II, he wanted the valor, and he stole the Valor, and he say, "Hey, Mithridates, if anybody asks, I killed him. I did." Let me put on the part of a tier 1 influencer. I did the thing that nobody would understand. So that was the king. He did the thing nobody understood. He said, "Hey, I'm grateful for you. Just if anybody asks, tell them that I did it," and that's the deal. But poor Mithridates, he got drunk, and he boasted that he was the one who actually killed the king's rebellious brother, and that made the king. So he accused the king of stolen valor, and as punishment, he was tortured to death by scaphism, and according to Plutarch, it took 17 days to die. That horrible death, being consumed by bugs, your skin blistering in the sun. Horrible, horrible death. So let me switch back. So I celebrate the fact that we have some scandals. It's like the wildfire that makes a society healthy. Like so like Tim Kennedy in particular, he has so much to be he's like a superhero already, like without writing this ridiculous book. Uh, like he doesn't need to like exaggerate, which he did ridiculously. But we don't live in a world where you're calling out stolen, as a result of calling out stolen valor, you will be tortured to death with saphism. I mean, scaphism. Look those up if you want to laugh. All right, see you next time.